Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good weekend, and I thought today we would have a look at the changelog that was released today. It's update 2.47.0.128, and basically what they've done in it is they brought in the planned battle rating changes that we talked about before. There's a few new ones, so we'll go through those too, and kind of show you the differences once again. And also there was another bug where they fixed a Scout UAV issue in test drive. Basically, what you would do is launch the good old Scout UAV, and then if your tank moved and then you crash the Scout UAV, for some reason you would be teleported back to the position where the Scout UAV was first launched, which is kind of funny. But in the game, we'll have a look at the additional BR changes that came in. Obviously, we've talked about all the other ones before, so I'm not going to go through them again. There was a few which were cancelled, so we will talk about those and have a look at the rest. So as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video. Let's get started. So pretty much all of the BR changes that we talked about previously have been implemented. There's a few ground ones which basically got left to the side, so we'll have a chat about those. But also there's a bunch of aviation ones that have been added in. We talked previously about the Hunter F6. I think the video came out yesterday, and one of the Hunter family has actually ended up going down. It is the Hunter F1. So this vehicle now is 8.7 in air and also 9.0 in ground. So they've decided to move this down, which, to be honest, makes complete sense. This Hunter, the F1, doesn't really have anything going for it. A lot of the Hunters have like gimmicks. They have like specific missiles, or, you know, they have maybe countermeasures or something just kind of helping them out. This one is just a bare bones fast boy with 30 millimeters, which are just generally designed to head on, and that's all they can really do. So if you compared this, for example, to, I think maybe the Swedish one, which was the J34, these used to be exactly the same BR, apart from the J34 had access to AIM-9Bs. So it was just a better vehicle that you could kind of use. So now with this change, it makes a lot more sense. The Hunters are still in very weird positions. Obviously, you have stuff like the Hunter F58A at 9.3 with the AIM-9Es, and then you have stuff like the F6 at 9.7 with the SRAMs, and then also the 10.01 with the countermeasures, and also the good old LWF 6380s, which I think are equivalent to Ps, or at least close to them. And then you just have like other ones like the Swedish one that we talked about, and obviously the F1. So they're just in weird places. And at least now it makes more sense in context of the game, but they're still not in great places, a lot of them. Another thing is the F-16s that they put up in BR because they added M120s. Well, they also added some different countermeasures. So basically the F-16A ADF, and then the ADF for Italy, and then also the MLU for China, basically the ones which are over here. They put them up to 13.3 in air because they added the good old AMRAAM to them. And then also what they've done is they've put them up in ground realistic too. So now they're at 12.7 instead of what they were previously. What they've also done on these vehicles is change their countermeasures. So before they basically had 60 standard countermeasures. Now they have 15 large and 30 standard. So technically they have less countermeasures now, which kind of sucks. But, you know, maybe the large caliber ones can be used a bit better by people, but who knows? We'll have to see kind of going forward. Another change to strike aircraft is they've once again put down the Su-7s. So the Su-7s, basically these ones here, you have the Su-7B, you have the good old BKL, which is just a better version, by the way, of the B. It's just basically the B, but with more options, like weaponry options. And then also you have the Su-7BMK, which is right here. These are all vehicles that don't really work very well. The basic reason is because they're just huge, fast boys, which have very limited kind of loadouts. So in air, you're able to destroy 2.5 bases using the incendiaries and then also using the 250s. And then after that, you can't really do too much. You have, you know, the 30mm guns, which is nice, but that's really about it. And the BKL at least gets like a bunch of like interesting options for rockets and stuff, but in air, they're kind of pointless. And these things have been put down in air. So that's kind of like where they've gone down. You can see in ground they're still at 9.3, so they're basically going to be a bit easier to grind in air. And I mean, these things in an 8.0, you're not really going to be able to touch them. These things in an 8.3, you're also not going to be able to touch them. This is basically bringing the SU7s back into what they were previously, which was just kind of AFK machines. So what you would do is you get into the machine, you would take off, you'd hit the bases, and then you'd kind of disappear, go back to base, then do it again. You do the same thing with like the Q5s, for example, and then all those types of vehicles. So that's basically their use. What kind of killed vehicles like this is the expansion of many annoying missiles around these BRs, like with the Crusaders or the A-10s or the Su-25s, or even just that Hunter that we talked about, because none of these things have countermeasures. So basically, if somebody gets within range of you with a decent missile, you just die. So them being put down in BR, it actually will help them quite a lot, which is quite good. The only issue for me with something like the Su-7 BKL is there's just going to be a lot of matchups now where you just can't kill it. So it's just going to run away and you can't do anything about it, which kind of sucks, but kind of is how it is with these types of vehicles. With the Ak-28, they also moved it down in air sim. So this is now going to be 9.0 in air sim alongside air. Not a huge change, but it's something to think about. Maybe if people like bombing with it in air sim for some reason. And then everybody's troubled soul right now, which Gaijin decided they had to buff for some reason, even though it just didn't need a buff. It was completely fine. The Yak-9K is once again going up in BR. So if you don't know what they did with this thing, they decided it was a great idea to add this belt to it, even though it already had the HVAP, which was pretty good in ground anyway. The APHE belt on this thing literally just one-shots vehicles. It will one-shot Panthers, it will one-shot Tigers, and it kind of shows the issue with APHE shells and why Gaijin were trying to change them. But now we're in a situation where the community voted to not change them, so now stuff like the Yak-9K gets to go crazy. So now, in air, it is 4.0, and in ground, it is 5.0. This thing will just keep going up because it can just one-shot mediums. It can even one-shot heavy tanks. It's insane how much damage this gun does, and it is because of the fact that they haven't changed how APHE works, and even with just this small amount of HE filler, it does insane amounts of damage. So yeah. The other thing to also note is this isn't the only vehicle with this gun. There's also stuff like the Tismar, which went up in BR a bunch as well. And then I think maybe the Su-8 has this one. Yeah, the Su-8 does too. But this one's more of a bus, so it's going to be quite hard to deal with. So yeah, the 45 is just crazy. And as I said, it's just going to keep going up. You know, we used it a bunch of times while doing like pages of history stuff. It's just insane. Like it's very, very annoying to be able to deal with. So after that, we also have some other changes that they're brought in too, mainly to Chinese stuff. This was data mined the other day, but I just wanted to make sure that they actually brought it in. So basically for the SA342L Gazelle, so this one for China, and then also the Z9W, which is right here. This change will affect the Gazelle a lot more because it's a lot lower BR. But what they ended up doing is they added a new missile to these guys. So previously you had the A and then you had the C. The only real difference between them is the fact that you can see here that they are very similar, but this one has a slightly bigger warhead on it and also pens a little bit more, right? And just generally means it's a little bit more punchy. Now they've added the E, which is the one right here. The difference between the E and the C is the E has 1 kilometer longer firing range. So basically you don't have to get as close to the enemy in order to be able to use it. And this gives this thing a decent buff. But as I said, this thing getting TY90s is kind of funny and basically why it's at the BR that it's at. But something like the Gazelle, which is at 8.7, which is way lower than the other ones, this one will benefit from this quite a lot. And having that 4 kilometer range at 8.7, I mean, most of the time you're going up against kind of gun AAs. A lot of them around 8.7 are actually doing anti-tank rolls right now, so they don't even look at the sky. So this thing will be able to pop off a bunch of targets and have a bit of fun with them. So it's a big change for this. definitely. Also, good luck grinding this out. It's another one where you have to use rockets to grind it out. Such a pain that they don't like give you some stock stuff. But yeah, so that's good for the Gazelle. It's nice for the Z9W, but this one's just in BR hell because they decided to give it TY90s. And TY90s are a really, really strong kind of anti-air missile, but you don't use this vehicle for anti-air. So that kind of sucks. There's another vehicle for good old China that's getting changed, the J8F. Basically, this one's been struggling for ages. So what they've done now is they've added the PL5E2s. So before I had the PL8s, which were obviously very nice missiles, the Pythons. Then you have the PL5Bs, which are a bit longer range missiles, but they're only rear aspect. And then sometimes they just decide to just ignore flares, which is kind of crazy. And now you have the PL5E2s. These are much better than basically the 5Bs, and then they're just different missiles to the PL8s. So basically with the Pythons, they're much more short range. You know, they're amazing in head-ons because they maneuver so quickly off the rail, whereas these ones, they're all aspect, but the big one is that they also have IRCCM, meaning that it's much harder to flare these compared to others. They also have a good overload as well, and generally are just a really nice missile. So what you can do with these is you can take some PL-12s, which are the active radar homing missiles, and then you can also take some PLE-2s, just to basically help you out. So overall, I'd say that's pretty good. And I'm guessing this vehicle needed a buff. It's at 13.0, and to be honest, its armament was incredibly lacking. So hopefully now it'll be in a bit of a better place. That is basically all of the kind of air changes that they've done. For ground, there's some really positive stuff for Israel. So basically they decided that it's a bad idea to put up the Sabra. So the Sabra stays at 10.0. It doesn't go up to 10.3. And then also the Merkava Mark 2D2 is actually staying at 10.0. So the Sabra going up was ridiculous. I don't know why these things keep marching upwards. They're not good vehicles. They just, basically, the Sabra and also many other Israeli vehicles have the same issue. Hardly anybody plays them. And the people who do play them are either like veteran players who like just play everything. So generally like they do pretty good with them, or you have specialist players who only play like one tech tree. And Israel as a tech tree is one of those which hardly anybody touches. So it basically just means you have a really bad data set of it, and it doesn't actually give you like the realistic statistics of a vehicle like this. And that kind of happens a lot with these types of vehicles. So yeah, it just kind of sucks that that is the case. I wish it was different, but what you're going to do? Like, at the end of the day, kind of sucks, and that's where we're at. But at least they didn't go up, so at least they're a little bit better than they would be before. The R3T106 for Italy, so in arcade, this one is basically only going to 7.7 and not 8.0. If you're an arcade player, what they were doing with this thing is, yeah, it was in arcade, it was 7.3, and then they were just putting it straight up to 8.0. So basically skipping 2 BR brackets, or 1 BR bracket, which usually Gaijin don't do. So now it's only going up to 7.7. In ground, realistic, it's always been 8.0. So, you know, it doesn't really matter there. And continuing their march to try and help out vehicles which don't have great reloads, what they've done is with the T30, which is the heavy tank with the 155. Basically, you have the T34, which has the 120. You have the T29, which has access to the 105. Then you have the T30, which has the funny 155mm. This thing always had a crazy reload. Basically, way more than the other guys, probably because the shell was a lot bigger. But that also meant there's no real reason to use it, because the vehicle has an APC-BC, which pens quite a lot, and then also it has a funny HE shell with 9 kilos of TNT, but by the time that you've reloaded this, like you could have got 2 or like even 3 shots off with the T34. So nowadays with this, it now has an aced 24-second reload, which is still a lot more than the T34 one, which has a 15-second reload basically, and then also the T29, which is at 15.2. So they're basically rebalancing these heavies to try and get people to use the T30 more. But the other problem is you can't get access to this. You can see this was from the Festive Quest of 2018 or 19, so don't know how that's going to work. They're probably going to bring it back in a loot box over Christmas, so therefore people are going to have a bit of fun with it. The other thing I just wanted to show you was the IGLA-S. So this is the new missile that's on the Shigla, which is this one right here. Basically, you do have to research it, which kind of sucks. But yeah, basically this is the standard IGLA. As you can see, it has the IRCCM, 11 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 5.2 kilometers. And then this one, it's 6 kilometers for the launch range, has the IRCCM2, and also has a much higher TNT equivalence. This one has a much larger warhead and can go slightly further, but it's really not too much further. The basic thing is you're getting a bigger boom, and the fuse sensitivity is basically the same, but this trigger radius is 1 meter. So that basically means it doesn't have to hit the target, it can get close to the target, and it will explode. So this is a huge positive for this machine. I thought like the Shigla was generally okay. I mean, the biggest issue with AAs like this is they're useless against helicopters. So if this is better against helicopters, then that's great. But apart from that, they generally don't do too much. It also has a better overload, so it's just kind of better in every way, which is nice. And hopefully this one doesn't launch kind of into the ground as well, because sometimes with this IGLA, the first one, when you launch it, it decides that it has to follow the ground and then go upwards. And I'm guessing that's just so, oh, well, you know, we're hiding it from the enemy going in. But the issue with that in ground is, you know, hills exist and also trees exist. Sometimes you want to get it out from the top. So hopefully that gets sorted. They seem to have also gone forward with the Tiger 2 changes. So all of those vehicles have now got their reduced horsepower. So Tiger 2H is now at 600. Same with the P, same with the Kunz Tiger, same with the Jag Tiger. So all of those are kind of screwed, which sucks. They're going to be super slow compared to everything. And then also for naval, nothing changed, which is normal. Usually we don't get too many changes for naval once the other setup comes in. Also, this is the last star for the F-106, so make sure to get it done so you can get your good old plane. You can see it right here. It goes until the 27th, so we got 2 days to finish the last mark of distinction. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about the BR changes, and I'll see you later on. Bye-bye. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.